you have to forge ahead. This is what it's like, I think. When you come up with a melody and you think it's great, and a bass line and a drum groove and a bit of lyrics, and you think it's fantastic, it's like you have assembled equipment to dig for gold. Right? You know where the gold is. Then you go to the mountain and you start digging for the gold. And it's hard work and it's shitty and the gold's not there. Because you've had all of this stuff in place and it's not there. So what you have to do is dig a bit deeper, or dig to the left or dig to the right. But you got to keep going. It's funny you bring this up because I'm working on a track right now and I thought it was beautiful. And there's this fucking chorus that was banging. I just said banging. We're not supposed to say banging with industrial music anymore. Sorry, yeah, I know. I suck. It was banging. And I put it in and I played it back and I went, this is crap. It sounded schmaltzy and cheesy and it's like, it sounds so dumb and convoluted and I fucking hate it. Just keep going. You've got to keep going. And if you can honestly say there is nothing about this track that's any good. That, I originally had an idea for a melody. It's actually a good melody, so it's going to stay. There's this really cool keyboard part. It's going to stay. A concept and it's all wiggly waggly, weird. That's going to stay. It's merging these things together. And that's when you find the fucking gold of the metal, you stick it in the fire and you start beating the shit out of it with your hammer. You start forging it. And you have to, it really is. You have to keep, maybe the problem is mashing. Great, then make sure that this idea has its space and this idea has its space. They might not work together, but they work, sequentially. You just have to keep going. And, as you guys know, I like to get up at 4:30 a.m. and work on music because it's when my brain works really good, really goodly. That's why Art of Rock is so early. I suck. I'm sorry. That's when I can listen to something, with a clear head, bullshit going on in my brain. Because as I go through the day, that starts building up. It's like plaque on your teeth. In the morning, it's not there. So I just get an opportunity to think about the song, to work on the song purely analytically. And that's what's important. Man, the problem is you might be going to a note that sucks. The melody's awesome, but you go to, it's in F kind of minor, and you pull this thing where it sits on a G, and you don't know why it sucks. Maybe the G sucks. Go back to the F, go to the A flat. It could be just one note that's making it suck. The beat might be too complicated, so pull out everything on the 3. So there's that breath, even the kick. The mix might be shit. Pull out everything in 400 because it's muddy. There's gold there.
You don't have to do everything else. You don't have to do everything yourself too, right? I mean, bands started with more than one person, and so if I play a riff or something, hey mate, what do you think of this? Oh, let me put a beat to it. Yeah, what about this? Try that. And then somebody else comes in and said, oh, why don't you tweak this and add this bit? And then, I know you don't own the whole thing and you're not the creator of it all, and get over it. If you wanna make good music, get some input from some other musicians who know your style.
Rob, I lost you. Hold on. You muted. All right, he's back.
Who's muted?
You are. Come back.
Yeah, I stopped.
All right.
I'm done.
That was bloody awesome. Don't run away, please. And we've got the Discord as well. And, I think we've got a gentle rule going on Angelspit's Discord that if somebody puts something up there, don't say, oh, yeah, that's good. If they ask for criticism, do it politely and kindly. You're allowed to say... And, oh, man, my problem with giving people criticism is that vision they had in their head, I don't know what that vision is. So if they came to me saying, I want it to sound like Blade Runner 2049, and I listen to it and I go, it doesn't. This is what you have to do to make it sound like Blade Runner 2049, or to be at least in that universe. Because at the moment, it might be more anime. Do you understand what I'm saying? Ask other people, and it's okay. Ivan.
Yes. No. And particularly on the Discord. I mean, I don't post anything on there because I want to find out that it's great. I want to know what is confusing about it, or what is wrong with it, or what is unlikable about it, because those are things that can be improved. If it's already great, then why haven't I released it yet? That's boring. What about it? And if it's great, what about it is? Like just saying it's great doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
My thoughts.
And also, like, when people ask me for criticism, I'll go, "Hi, Carl, what do you think about this?" I'll say, the melody is logical, the lyrics are logical, the bass is logical, and so what you have to make a good song is there. Now it comes down to taste. And I guess that's my thing, is that, people say to me, "What do you think?" It's like, well, doesn't matter what I think, because this is not my taste. It's not about my taste, it's about your taste. I've said a few times, like, the one place in the world where you get to be you, and you get to, where your opinion is the first and last word is your music. Maybe that's why I don't like people giving me criticism, because it's like, I'm trying to go here, and it ends up going off like that, because it's like, oh man, I remember one person once said, I don't like guitars, why does Angelspit have guitars? I did a whole album without guitars. That's all they had to say. A whole fucking album. It was a good album. It's just, maybe that's just my head. It's like when somebody puts a thing in, because there's so much doubt, and I know you guys feel this way too, there's so much doubt in your brain. As soon as somebody lets you, repeats what the doubt's saying, it's like, that's all I got. I see no hands. Yeah, maybe you need to work with the arrangement rather than the melody. Just because it goes together doesn't mean it all has to be playing at once. Yes, that is so true, man. And I got to tell you as well, dude, the amount of time that look, Angelspit is a burning train wreck. It really is. When I listen to these mixes, and everybody on the Patreon, I apologize that music I make you listen to, it's like, because I like putting demos up there. I never share demos. Now I share demos, and I listen to it, and I just go, there is so much going on. Like, there is so much going on. Like, the rule is there's supposed to be only 3 or 4 ideas, and I listen to these tracks, and everything's distorted. It's like, dude, fucking stop. And now, actually, one of the tracks I'm working at releasing called Art Imitates War, and I have gone through, and I've taken so much stuff out. And it's funny, look, if I may, I will say that it's like, using another metaphor, like, I am creating a machine, and the machine's got all these little cogs in it. And what I'm doing is I'm spending so much time meticulously designing these cogs, and I'm writing, all of this etchings and everything on the cogs, and you put them in, and it's slowly moving like, one of Atom Bomb's watches. But the problem is there are so many cogs, and the cogs are moving so fast. And it's like you don't see the detail. And, I've always had this thing is I just want to write a song where the bass line has got this shifting, a pulse width modulating bass, in the square. And I want to be able to hear that. And I can't. I'm going to share that. If you want an amazing watch or an incredible jewelry, Adam is the man to talk to. I just need to simplify, and maybe, that's the problem as well, Alex, is that it's just, the thing about gold, it's just gold. It's beautiful. It's just gold. Or a diamond is a nicely cut diamond. it's not all of this other shit going on, and I'm not really into jewels and stuff, but you know, maybe this metaphor is helpful. Somebody help me now.
I think it's okay if demos are demos and are not perfect, because sometimes you need to breathe and figure stuff out first.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, something... Oh, sorry. Keep talking.
No, I just want to interject that, because you were trash talking here on demos. So.
Yeah, no. No, I treasure...
Cool.
Hold on, sorry, Ivan?
Demos should be like playgrounds.
You know, you're right.
With everything.
You're absolutely right. It's funny when I hear... Because my thing is that when I do a vocal demo, Mark, this might be interesting or not, I am literally talking through the lyrics in this really boring monotonal voice. And the purpose is, does the rhythm of these lyrics fit? Does it make kind of sense? Wow, thanks PC. Hold on, everything is falling apart today. It's great. Go away. Go away. Just to make sure the thing fits. But then I get into this danger that dull monotonal demo starts affecting and going into my subconscious brain. So when I do the final, it sounds dull and monotonal. Brian Gossicles does this thing, is that whenever he does vocals, it's balls to the wall. It's full drive, full tilt boogie. He's going at it. And I really appreciate that, because it's like, this is what the vocal will always sound like. Demo, whispered, the whole lot. It's madness. And that's good. You need that. You have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. There you go. Does anybody else want to share about this? Or we could close this by sharing horror stories about how we used to make electronic music. Don't look so excited, Ivan. Dude, seriously. Alex, what do you got?
So I would have another question about subtle reverbs.
Okay.
How do you know if it's right or enough? Because I feel like if I can't hear it as a distinct thing, it's almost not there. But I've read so much that it's important to have subtle space, because it brings the mix to life. All right, here's... I struggle with subtlety in this regard.
Just FYI, file under Who Cares. The first 4 Angelspit albums, 3, had absolutely no reverb. Crunkhouse, no reverb. Nurse Grenade, none. No reverb. Actually, there was some in Nurse Grenade. Actually, there was a tiny bit in Crunkhouse. Blood Death Ivory, basically no reverb. No reverb. Dry. So it's up to your taste. If you like reverb, great. I personally use a spring and a plate. I never use a room unless it's a large hall or a cavernous space. All the reverb I use is plate and spring. Actually, usually plate, because it's it adds a tone to it, and it's a really small amount. Really small amount. And I will take everything reverb out below 300, gone, and above 6 or 7, I'll wind it back or take it out completely. It's funny, man. I sort of started using reverb because everybody told me to use reverb. Lush reverb. Now I use a lot of reverb. But usually, and I usually use it a lot as an effect or something. I mean, obviously, as something that is giving. It is an intrinsic part of the sound. So if it's in the modular, it's I'm always starting. Here's your wall, something way behind the reverb, and then it comes up dry, and then it might stick back to 50-50, and then it just disappears. I love doing that, like with strings and pads and arpeggiator lines. Reverb is good if you already have space between the notes. Yes. If you have a busy track with lots of layers, it could make blending it muddy. Yes. Ditto delay. That's so true. more brilliantness from Rob there, I think. Yeah, I totally agree. Does anybody else want to talk about reverb? I don't use it in a room because it sounds like a toilet. Always. I recorded this in my bathroom. Unless you actually do record something in the bathroom, it might end up sounding great. And if you want to experiment with stuff, take a small speaker into a bathroom or a stairwell, even better. Put the speaker at the bottom of the stairwell pointing up. Have one microphone right at the top of the stairwell and another microphone kind of down there close to it-ish. Actually, put two microphones way up and you get some great sounds. And if it's a concrete stairwell, even better.
One should just record their next album.
I was going to do that, actually. And it's funny that on this album, there is a sample. There's a track that's got a sample in it where it's one of those water bottles, plastic water bottles, being dropped down the stairs. And because it dunk, dugga dunk, dunk, it was fantastic. It's the best slap back, really short slap, and it was the best reverb ever. Really, 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 really good, especially when it then got to the bottom and fell into the room below. It was so good. One of those brilliant mistakes. We could end up talking about nightmares of making music in the 90s live. Okay. So when I was at university, I just remember the big thing stopping bands, because you weren't a real band, because you didn't have a drummer, and you had a backing track, so you weren't a real band. How times have changed. It was really hard, because people would use DAT tapes, but DAT tapes would chew. You didn't use a CD because they skipped, and CDs weren't really readily available until the mid-late 90s. There were ADATs, but they were also problematic, and no one could afford an ADAT, so a lot of people used a cassette player, or a reel-to-reel, but usually it was a cassette player, and you hoped it didn't get chewed, but usually it wouldn't. And you just play along with it, but always the sound person would not know what to do, and there was no backing tracks and no synthesizers, because back in those days, the keyboards were always... they're always way in the background there. Always way back in the background. With lots of reverb. So it was really hard. I remember going to gigs. There was a band in university called Byte. B-Y-T-E. Byte. And they were really interesting because they had a couple of ESQ1s. And they'd actually use the sequences on the ESQ1. That was actually something a lot of people did. I was trying to use the sequence on the Emacs, but it wouldn't really play fair. Yeah, a lot of ESQ1 stuff going on, and because that's what everybody had, or you'd turn up with a little drum machine and everybody would play along. But when it got into anything beyond that, it was difficult. It was very difficult. Does anybody else have a horror story? Early 90s horror story that they want to share?
Guitar amplifier, and a laptop sitting next to each other, destined for failure every single time.
Yeah.
Buzzing and crazy noise, and I did a lot of backing tracks. I recorded backing tracks for bands in my small town back in the 80s, and the challenge was, what are you going to play it on? So I would produce all of the tracks for them, burn it. I had one of these, the first Red Book CD burners back in
Wow.
89 or whatever it was, and so I could make the CD, but then I'd encourage them to put it onto another device, record it onto a little recorder or something like that. And this band said, "Oh look, thanks, you've made us 36 backing tracks." It was ridiculous. They're called Sisters Blue. They did saxophones, guitars, bass guitar, and everything else was all backing track. And I said, "What are you going to play it on?" She goes, "It's all cool. We've got a computer to play it on." And I thought, hell no, this will be interesting. So I'll go to the first gig and see what their setup is. And the guy that helped set up their computer actually was fairly smart. He took a laptop, he put it in a steel box with a piece of glass on it and sealed it with Celastic so you could pour beer all over it all night and it wouldn't be a problem. And his interface was just the mouse, so they could just look through the glass, you know, at the back of the stage, so nobody could see the glare of the monitor, and they could just click on the track and press play, and it didn't make any interference, and it was foolproof. And I thought, that person's smarter than me. That's actually really cool. These days, we don't have as much issues because you've got DI boxes, and those DI boxes make all the difference. You don't have to worry about any of that hum and ground, dissimilar grounding issues, and you know, antennas, you know, inducting noise from computers into guitar strings and cable leads. That was hell back in the late 80s, early 90s. I really hated it.
Yeah. When I was in Jekyll Switch, there were no laptops, but everything was on the sampler, so all parts would be played live. And we bought a 1,000-watt PA. And it was this massive fucking PA with this bloody amp that was heavy as fuck. And it was loud. It was so loud. And massive 15-inch, huge, well, 15-inch, and horns on them. And my God. And we'd turn up, and they'd be on either side of the drummer, who was a maniac, and I love him. And the guitarist had his fucking Marshall, maniac, love him. And that was the only way we could ever get heard, because no, because, a third of the music's coming off the sampler. But no one in Sydney could mix it or wanted to mix it. They all mixed it down. So we gave them no choice but to have a lot of synthesizer going on. And I remember doing sound check. We'd say, can we get some synths in the foldback, please? And it was like tiny. And I would be there going, more, please, more. It's got to be as loud as the guitar. More. We'd never get... And then you'd get guitar in the monitors, and it would be loud as fuck. And, yeah, people just didn't get it. They just, they were opposed to it. They didn't want it to happen. Because you're not having your electro babies here. Your hatchlings of the death of rock and roll here. It was great fun. Not. I think if anybody else wants to throw in an idea, otherwise we're going to stream on right on over to MTV TV. Anybody? Okay, Diana, let's raid. Thank you so much for coming, and once again, we're going to shoot on over to MTV TV, who are here, and if you've got a, I gotta find it, because I suck. If you've got a, no, I can do this, I believe in myself. If you've got a track, send it to them. As Venus of Gorgon now has a video, and we're going to be sending that on over. And they will play it. As a reminder, join us here again next week at this time. Subscribe to Angelspit's Twitch, and that's where the mayhem is, because there's always something crazy. Let's raid! Bye. Goodbye. See you next week.